All right, here we go. This is episode 121 of Height Drop with Robbie Hall, who is a fitness coach extraordinaire, a yoga instructor of ultimate proportion and energy, and just a wonderful human being. I've had the great fortune of getting to know since I moved into my current address. He's a neighbor of mine, which is, you know, we have even other things in common. We went to the same high school, we found out during this episode. He used to manage the famous Casa Bonita restaurant, so there's some great stories there that we kicked the podcast off with. And, you know, he's just a really great legend and leader in my world, amongst several communities here locally. I am really honored to highlight him and on this episode. It's one of my favorite things. I get to recognize people on this podcast for the great work they're doing, and a lot of the people that you wouldn't hear from anywhere else. And so I love that I get to show you guys and introduce you to Robbie Hall. He's an incredible man, and especially for me, somebody who is helping me understand, you know, this generation between my parents and between my generation. It's so valuable to have a mentor like that. Without further ado, Robbie Hall, ladies and gentlemen. So welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm pumped.
I'm super pumped. You know, this is a good chance for both of us to get to know each other a lot better because, you know, I've been in your classes and was there at the training today, but I still don't know that much about you, and I'm very curious.
Yeah, likewise.
So, you know, I want to get your whole story. You know, I'm going to give you just kind of a little quick sweeping, like assessment for the viewers and things.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll let you to introduce yourself, I think would be the ideal. And I do a short introduction, like, for each episode.
Gotcha,
But, you know, you're very inspiring. Like, just your energy is just, you know, it's always been something that it's kind of rare to find that people have an authenticity to that inspiring energy. The older I get, the more I realize it's not something that people can really fake, you know? And so I that's another reason why I'm curious about your story, because I don't know where that comes from for you, but it's authentic. And, you know, people surround you in the yoga classes and the other things that you do. And I haven't even been to your gym yet, but I know that they get a lot out of just being in your space and the way that you do things.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's means a lot to me. I love that. So currently what I do is all fitness. For a long time, that wasn't my gig. My gig was Casa Bonita. So which is kind of crazy. They're opening right now.
Shout out to Casa Bonita.
Shout out to Casa Bonita. Those were great years of my life. I was there for 21 years, and for a long time, that's what I was known for, was always Casa Bonita. So all my online presence, everything in social media was linked to Casa Bonita. All the phone calls, people would text me. It was always about Casa Bonita. Can we get a spot by the water? and I loved that. And I loved my time in that environment. And I'll tell you what, I'd still be there today if life didn't change for all of us.
Yeah. Wow.
So, and I'm excited for them now. It's a big deal. I know that's a big deal for Denver. It's a big deal for Colorado.
Yeah.
Matt and Trey are just fantastic human beings. I think those guys are the epitome of what Colorado is.
Yeah.
I met those guys a few times at the restaurant. We did their cast parties for the Book of Mormon.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Which was incredible. Yeah. They, well, I'll tell you, my first interaction with Matt and Trey was, I can't remember her name, but she was there. They were like the girl that did their press. And I wish I could remember her name, but she contacted us, and this is back in like 2011. And she said, Matt and Trey are thinking about doing an episode of Casa Bonita. And we just kind of wanted to see what you guys felt about that. So the GM is the one that handled the call. He came and talked to us. It was me, Mike, Mason, Pierre Osby. We were the three big GMs there. And we just said, you know, it's probably not a good idea, you know, because the nature of the show.
Yeah.
We're a family restaurant. And, you know, if you had looked prior to now, you know, there was no swearing. We were very family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got back in touch with them, and Mike said, hey, we appreciate the offer, but it's just probably not a good idea for us. And she said, it airs on Wednesday. We're just giving you a heads up. And we were deathly afraid of that. And there's two of the longest days. We were waiting for that episode to come out, and it came out. It was the best thing that happened to us because it kind of resurrected that environment. Mm-hmm. And then those guys, every time Casa Bonita had that episode air for South Park, we just got a big boom. Mm-hmm. For like 2 weeks, we're 15% up in sales. And then they contacted us when they wrote the Book of Mormon and they wanted to do their cast party at the restaurant, which is something we never did. We don't do cast parties. We don't stay open after hours, but we did that for those guys. And I'll always remember my first experience meeting those two guys. They showed up and they looked just dead.
They had to have been, right? This is a wrap party essentially for the first like opening season of the musical, or what is it?
Yeah. So they came into it was their first opening in Denver, and it was the first year of the Book of Mormon. And those guys and I think we always view celebrities as just bigger than life. They're not human. Mm-hmm. They're not real. And when those guys came in, I was very excited to meet them. And that was my first impression of them, is these guys are tired. They're worked. You could tell they're overworked. They put everything into what they're doing. Mm. And they were very polite. They were very gracious. They gave me tickets to the dress rehearsal. So that was a big deal for me. Yeah, I went to the dress rehearsal for the first showing of the Book of Mormon in Denver. Wow. Yeah, I was so excited for it. I showed up there, and it was only like friends and family. And when it was over, and it was an incredible show. If you've never seen it, if any of you have never seen it.
It's hard to get tickets still.
Yes. Like it's fantastic. I was blown away by how good it was.
Yeah.
It starts off, and you're like, it's like a musical, and it starts off, and then you'll know when you watch it, it turns. There's a left-hand turn, and then the rest of the show is crazy. But it was great, and I'll always remember this. I took this girl with me. She was like my romantic interest at the time. Mm-hmm. And we left. Everyone was going to the right, and she said, let's go to the left. We turned and took a left, and there was Trey Parker. And my first impression of Trey when I saw him the second time, this was like 3 days after the cast party. Mm. He was wearing the exact same clothes. He was wearing blue jeans and this Denver Bronco t-shirt. And I just looked at him and was like, oh my goodness, the guy hadn't even changed his clothes. and we walked up, and I said, hey, can we get a picture with you? And he had a brief millisecond of annoyance. You could barely see it where he was, and he immediately corrected that.
Wow.
And it was so endearing. He just corrected, and he was like, yeah, I'd love to take a picture. So I got a picture with my date. I got a picture with her and him. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get in the picture. I'm just going to let him go. We let him go. And I'll always remember that, just how gracious that he was. And I'll tell you, what's kind of crazy is, and I'm spacing his name, but our neighborhood is full of, and a lot of you don't know this.
Oh yeah.
Me and Brandon are neighbors, and we'll get to that too.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. That's a great story.
We're going to get to that too. But yeah, we're neighbors actually. And the guy who's building Trey's house is our neighbor. Yeah. He's like the lead contractor.
Wow.
So they're building a house in Morrison right now, right up the road.
Wow.
So Trey is planning on living here in Colorado. And for someone who's put his heart and soul into Casa Bonita, I was very worried that these guys were going to come in and they were just going to buy it and not be present. And it appears that they're very invested into the place, so much so that they're going to be there.
The whole community. I mean, it's wild. I heard they're also revivifying Lakeside.
I didn't know that.
I heard that they're going to buy Lakeside and also amp that up. And it's just like
that's
super
incredible.
Cool because these are like the relics in a way. They're not relics, but they are kind of like the staple, things of our childhood if you grew up here.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you grew up around Denver, but it's wild to see these things coming back to life because they were just a huge part of my growing up.
Oh yeah. They're icons of
That's
Colorado.
The word I was looking for. Yeah.
Well, they are. It is. Yeah. I know when I worked at the restaurant, I mean, like I said, you have people come. There's people there. There's guys camped out in the parking lot right now waiting to get in.
No, my friend has reservations for November.
Yeah.
It's like, and those were hard to get. I mean, it's just wild.
It is wild. So, and those guys, like I said, this isn't just something they're doing.
No.
They're invested into it. And I knew when we were at the restaurant, they had their office in California was named Casa Bonita. And they did birthday parties there at the restaurant when they were kids. So it was something they loved. And I'll be honest, it's hard for me because it's like an ex.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It was my life there, and I wish Casa Bonita the best.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I really hope. But at the same time, it's like your ex-wife's getting married and you kind of don't want to go to the wedding and you get a little tired of hearing about it. But
yeah.
I am excited for it. And for someone that loves that place and loves Colorado.
Nice.
And I know you do too. Colorado is
born and bred. One of the few.
Wow. I didn't know that. What area?
I grew up in Arvada.
Okay, wow.
Unincorporated Jeffco, technically.
Wow. What high school did you go to?
Arvada West.
That's where I went to high school.
No way.
Yeah, class of
See,
98.
we're finding this about now?
Class of 98.
Class of 2007.
Wow.
James Bond style.
Yes, man. How cool is that?
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, when I was there, so you were there. And
Wildcat, fellow Wildcat alum.
That's right. That's right, man.
Nice.
I had good times at the school. I know a lot of people didn't like high school.
I also had a very good experience compared to like what people talk about, the horror stories of high school.
Yeah.
My high school days were great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just right. It was perfect. I had a lot of good fun. It was a really unified group of class, you know.
Yeah.
We were kind of wild. They put a fence around the school after we left.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I mean, they had to change a lot of the rules after our class. Apparently our class like just shut everything down because
so cool.
we were too much to deal with. But yeah, love that.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually where my gym is now, is in Arvada. That was one of the reasons I went there, is because most of the people that I get in touch with off of social media are people I went to high school with. So most people that reach out to me for help with nutrition and with fitness are old high school people. So I thought it was appropriate that and you know what? It's not just because of the area, but the gym is a incredible gym. Mm-hmm. It's owned by Miguel Gomez. It's privately owned. It's not a corporate gym. I went there. It's been almost 2 years. When I went there, we were running a gym, and we'll talk about this too, kind of how we met. We were running a gym just up the street. This happened during COVID. So I was at Casa Bonita. March 16th, the governor shuts everything down. Wow. 2020. I count the money at Casa Bonita. I put the money in the safe. I lock it. I punch my code in the door. I walk out, and I'm thinking I'll be back in 2 weeks. And that was the end.
Wow.
You know, and all of us were getting paid. We were getting the unemployment checks, which was, you know, generous, but at the same time, I know it was rough for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I didn't know what we were going to do. And our neighbors up the street, Joe and Vince, I just said, hey, I've done something before with fitness. I guarantee I could probably get 15 people involved. We could probably get everybody throwing like $150, $200. We could put together a fitness challenge and just start something and see what happens. And the wheels started moving. We had, you know, about 10, 15 people in there. And then when things started opening back up, I knew we're not, and especially we're involved in a homeowners association. We have a homeowners association. They don't want us running businesses out of the house.
Come on, guys. So I needed a gym, and I'd been to Miguel's gym before. So we organized an event, and it was just a free event to get people in there. I showed up at that gym, and I was blown away by the community. Everybody knew each other. It was electric in there. And that's when I said, this is where I need to be. So it was kind of rough because I'd paired up with Vince and Joe, but I branched away from those guys and went and paired up with Miguel. So there's 6 of us there now. We pay rent to Miguel, and he allows us to run our business as we see fit. And I do love it in there. But if we can get to how we met. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, because, you know, we both had a similar experience in a way of how we met, because I moved in that year, actually, towards the end of the summer, COVID 2020. I think August or September or October is when I moved in, actually.
Gotcha.
I think I signed the contracts in August. And, you know, I don't know. You just kind of, you take in the neighborhood. And one day I see this dude just ripped, shredded with the fucking tank top down to the, the hip, just so you can see all the striations, and just like, I think you were just walking your dog or something, but I was like, oh man, we got some animals in this neighborhood. I thought I was going to be the fit guy on the block, but no, sir.
Dude, I love it. Mine was, and it's crazy because it's you and Kira both. Mm-hmm. And my interaction with both of you was very similar. So I teach CorePower yoga.
Yeah.
I teach yoga sculpt, and I teach hot power fusion.
And I want to say something about that later.
Yeah.
Too.
Okay, cool.
But we'll get to it.
We'll get to it.
Because it's not what you think.
Yeah, it is. It's funny today. I taught a class at 1:30 today, and there were a couple women in there that had no idea what was going on, and the class starts and we progressively increase intensity, and that's one of my favorite parts about that class is that when people come in and you see all of a sudden by the end it's just a heightened sense of intensity, and you just weren't ready for it, but you realize you were all along. But that's where I met Kira. So I was in class, and CorePower yoga has a lot of very fit people that are in great shape, very flexible. Kira was the first person I ever saw in there that brought her own weights and she brought her own props. People will bring their own bands. Their own blocks. Yeah. Bring blocks and their own mats. But she brought like ankle weights in, and she was very intentional about her movements. Obviously, she's shredded. She's absolutely shredded, and I was just blown away by Kira's presence. And it's very rare where I'm in that room and I'm intimidated. And I was a little intimidated. So we left. Class was over. I came back to our gym here with Joe and Vince. And I was like, oh my God, this girl. I said to you, have no idea. This girl, on next level. I was like, dude, I've never met anybody like this girl. And that was the end of it. About a week later, we were doing one of our workouts, and we run around the block. Yeah. We're running around the block, and that's when I see you for the first time, and you're jump roping out in the street, right outside your garage or outside your driveway. And I just saw you, and you're just shredded. You're absolutely shredded up, and I am very proud of my physique, and I know I try to be humble, but I kind of walk with a strut around the neighborhood. And I was running, I was like, holy shit. And so I came back to the gym. Joe and Vince were there, and I was like, oh my God, do you see that dude? They're like, oh yeah, we've seen him before. I was like, dude, we got to get that guy in here. Like, it's just next level. They're like, yeah, he's shred. I said, we got to step our game up. I
love that. That's how, this is the beauty about, the push that we give each other. Yes. And you push people so well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, you do too.
Felt like inspired. Like, damn, I got to step my game up.
Well, which was the first time you came to Red Rocks was the same way, because you push, and we'll get to that too. But the level of intensity and how you brought, we'll talk about that in a second, because that's something very meaningful that I want to bring up, because it is, to me, that was a day to remember as well. The first day that you came to Red Rocks. But, so I went back, told those guys, and I say, yeah, we got to step it up. We got another dude in the neighborhood that's, shredded. So we're trying to figure out how to get you in there. Well, then I'm walking my dog. I got the little Scotty. Mm-hmm. I'm walking my dog, and this is about mask time. And I was one of the people that was outdoors in a mask. I was one of those guys. And you know what? And I wasn't afraid of getting sick. Yeah. I was so caught up in the politics of it, and the yoga studio was very strict about COVID. Yeah.
You had to choose like one pole or the other.
Yes.
Like, either way, it's like you just kind of have to respect the decision. It's like you're going to lose a big chunk of your audience or your patronage regardless.
Without question.
It was divided down everywhere. And it's just funny. Yeah, it is kind of funny because of all people that doesn't, need probably the immune help. No. Someone like you is in incredible shape. But anyhow.
Well, I'm glad to talk about it now, because I thought it was all just overblown. The whole thing bothered me, but I was not one of the people that was publicly bothered.
And that was also another thing that, again, like when I first saw you, I'm like, damn, this looks like the most dangerous dude in the neighborhood. You know, you just, yeah, you have just like a fierceness about you, just the presence again. But when I actually got to know you, and, you know, we're still getting to know each other, but it's that time old kind of trope even now where, you know, the warrior is the most gentlest, the most
That means a lot
humble,
to me.
and like the kindest of all of the people that you meet.
That's the same for you as well. 100%, without question. So I'm walking my dog, got my mask on. The reason I'm wearing my mask is because I don't want CorePower Yoga really to find out that I'm not following rules. So I wore my mask. I'm walking out in the neighborhood. I'm outdoors. And it was kind of funny because some of the neighbors were offended, but you could tell I walk up and talk to them, and they were kind of, "But you're wearing your mask outdoors." But I'm walking with my mask. Kira pulls out of the driveway and she goes, "Robbie?" I look at her, I'm like, "Oh my God, Kira, she's my neighbor." This is, and I didn't know your name at the time.
Yeah.
And I was like, your boyfriend's here too. She's like, yeah. I said, "Oh my God, it totally makes sense." The two most shredded people I know, fit, getting after it. And I was like, it all made sense. So, and then Kira continued, she still comes to my class, and she brought you in there. Mm-hmm. And that was cool because you were a heightened sense of intensity in the area, in that space. And it is something, and you know this, it's all up in your head.
Yeah.
It's in your head. And if anybody tries to tell you otherwise, it's there. You just have to find that spot inside and make it happen. And the level of intensity that you brought in there is just impressive. And it's inspiring to me. Now I'll talk about our first time at Red Rocks. So I organize these workouts for, I budget 3 hours a week for community, where I do free workouts for the community to try to just build awareness about our bodies and our nutrition and how to keep people healthy. But I also do it in mind, and I'd like, if it's okay, just give a shout out to the Tennyson Center.
Absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
My charity of choice that I've always picked is the Tennyson Center for Children. And they're in Lakewood, Colorado, and they help children in need, mostly children that are victims of child abuse. So I always pick that as the charity. So when people ask, people are always like, "How do we tip you?" And it's like, no, this isn't about that. It's about these kids. If you want to donate, then you can donate to that. But I do these free workouts at Red Rocks, and this is why I love our neighborhood. Harrison, who lives at the very end, Harrison comes up there, and he was up there today too.
Yeah,
Harrison was up there today.
The legend.
And he lost his son. His son Caleb was 15 years old, and he passed away back in September. So last September. And you were there for one of the last sessions that Caleb was there for. So you showed up, and it was a very intense workout. Matt was there, Matt Garza, who's also very intense. He was there today.
I was hoping he wouldn't show up. No, when he showed up, I was like, oh, here we go.
You know what's coming.
Because there's going to be one dude out in front, and it's Matt.
It's Matt. Matt pushes. And I like that because he was there. He was pushing you. You pushed him, and you both impacted Caleb. And Harrison still goes to Red Rocks every week, even when we don't go up there. During the winter, he was going up there because it's his connection with his son. And it's just so you understand that, how much of an impact that you had on Caleb in just a setting. And that's one thing I just want everybody to understand. Like, if you're listening to this, the power of one is significant. And your impact that you can create on a life from one encounter with someone is significant. It's endless. And that is what keeps Harrison going, because Caleb works hard. He's a 15-year-old boy, and he was doing everything he could to keep up with you and Matt. Uh-huh. And he loved what you guys were about. And so he wanted to come every week and try to get to that level. So, it's just very interesting how, and here we are, full circle. We're here together.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so beautiful. Like you said, I mean, to take me even out of it, like the one thing, the one person, or just recognizing that in your life, I didn't know exactly why I was supposed to be there that day. And I don't know what everyone else believes, but I did feel like I do recognize the significance of, okay, there's a significance why I was there, and I didn't even realize it until now.
Crazy, isn't it?
It's really wild. And today, again, it's just interesting when I feel like I'm more watching the movie of my life sometimes than I'm even like, and, you know, of course I'm making choices and I'm just applying myself as much as possible, but I don't know always what's the real significance of something. And that means a lot to me. And I didn't know that about Caleb. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But,
so Caleb went to Alameda High School. He was a sophomore when he passed, and he actually brought in volleyball to the curriculum there. They didn't have a volleyball team, and they had a small girls volleyball team, and he created the program there, which is wild that the sophomore boy is the one that impacted his school in a way that they opened up a whole new sport for the students there. So he was a great kid. I knew him as a child because him and my children, I have two boys, you know, Robbie and Joshua, and they grew up together. So it was very rough. His passing was rough on me, not just because I was close with Caleb, but because what it did to my boys. And they were deeply affected by that. At the same time, it was inspiring to see their group of friends band together and kind of rise above and want to represent Caleb's spirit, which was something that was really cool for me to see. So, and if Harrison, if you ever hear this, just know your son is, he is a legend, and he's someone we still talk about him to this day. And I know that you honor him. You know, if you saw Harrison, he's growing out his beard. His beard is in remembrance of the pirate of Alameda, so he can represent Caleb's legacy. And he goes, yeah, he's not gonna cut it, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I love it. And again, the power of one. I mean, Caleb, you know, is not here in this plane or whatever you might call it, but his significance is still rippling.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I feel it's appropriate to say it. I know, because probably some people are wondering, how did he pass away? And I know that's something I was taught growing up, is when someone passes away or when you hear news about it, you're never supposed to say what happened, because the significance of their death or their passing is not what is important. It's their life. So you want to talk about and celebrate their life and not what happened. But in saying that, it was a very unusual circumstance. They were on a family vacation in Florida, and he drowned in the hotel pool. And his drowning was just something unexpected. Caleb was in very good shape. And what he had been doing was he was trying to hold his breath underwater, and he'd been doing it all day, seeing how long he could hold his breath. And by the end of the day, everyone was used to him just going underwater, and people kind of lost sight. He went underwater and never came back up. So, which is also a testament to his will. Yeah. Oh his passing was because he was pushing himself to another level, you know? So it is very interesting. And it is one thing to just take this time, and anybody that's listening, when you're around pools with children, it is just try to be mindful and pay attention to it. You just never know. And also hug your children. I heard something recently too, and I go off on tangents a lot.
The tangent life is real here.
It's
on
real.
This podcast. Do not worry. You're not the first.
But it was actually, I saw a clip of Joe Rogan. He had some guy on his podcast that said, pretend that you're 70 years old and you've gone back in time, and you're a time traveler witnessing this moment. How are you going to enjoy this? How are you going to spend this moment? And that's how I try to be that way with my kids, is instead of trying to push them or ride them, is just try to enjoy your time with them, because you never know, how long it's going to be. But yeah, so transitioning. So yeah, I'm into fitness now. All I do is I teach at CorePower Yoga. I split my time between CorePower Yoga, and I split my time between the gym, and I mostly assist with personal training in small groups, but my real passion, I guess you could say, is nutrition and trying to help people with food and have healthy relationships with food.
Let food be thy medicine.
I agree with that.
That is
obviously.
The old school Hippocrates.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Paracelsus. I don't know. It's one of the only ancient Greek.
I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what either of those words mean.
Those are two dudes that lived a long time ago.
Gotcha.
But anyhow, yeah, that's like another, it's a huge, tell me more about that.
Yeah. So, it's silly. Most people that are very successful in one endeavor usually have something in common, and that's some sort of trauma or some sort of hurt or loss that pushes you. I was riding through life, just getting from one station to the next, having no idea how I was doing it. It just was working out. And I was in a relationship with this girl, and I just loved this girl. She was living with me at the house up the street, and one day I came home and everything was gone. The paintings on the wall, I mean, just everything. She just moved everything out. And that was the moment that I said, I'm going to be a different person. It just flipped for me. I didn't try to beg her to come back. I didn't try to change her mind. I just said, and I knew I wasn't a great, successful person. I mean, I had the job at the restaurant. I was very successful there, but I was just flying by the seat of my pants. And I literally changed everything about my life in that moment right there. I used to smoke cigarettes, which is wild.
Wow.
Yeah. I used to drink a lot of alcohol. I partied a lot. It's funny to me because most people who know me now don't realize that I was at Casa Bonita. Mm-hmm. The people that realize that I was at Casa Bonita are blown away. They're like, oh my goodness, you were at Casa Bonita. What's funny are the people that know me from Casa Bonita are blown away that I'm into health and nutrition because I was a degenerate. I did a great job at the restaurant. I was always very focused. I felt like I had good qualities there, but I partied.
Yeah.
All the time. And I just switched everything about my life. I was always kind of into fitness. I thought to me, fitness was running. I would go out for jogs. And when I changed everything, I got back into jogging. And what's kind of crazy is I fell up the street jogging and I hurt my elbow. And I went to the doctor and I was like, yeah, I hurt my elbow. And he said, you need to get a gym membership, quit running outdoors. So I got a gym membership, and that's what got me into lifting weights. And then I did a new fitness program, and that's where I learned about nutrition. And I learned how important that the food and what we put in our body is. And you know what? I'll tell you the crazy thing. I quit drinking, and now I'll still drink now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still cut loose.
A little bit here and there.
And
it's
you know
nice to be able to do that, you know.
And I'll tell you this, I smoke weed. I do. It's something I partake in. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't partake in any of that. And I don't do drugs anymore. I don't do like any of the hard drugs. But I still enjoy life, to an extent. But when I quit doing everything, I went cold turkey. I quit smoking cigarettes. I quit smoking pot. I quit drinking. And I went to the gym and I ran into this dude that I worked with. And he was like, oh my God, dude, you're changing. I said, yeah. And I told him everything I was doing. And he goes, you're drinking pop? And I go, yeah. He goes, you drink pop? And he was blown away. I said, oh yeah, I love pop. And he goes, well, you might as well smoke cigarettes and drink beer. And that blew me away. I said, really? He goes, oh yeah, that's like the worst thing you can do for yourself. So that was the last time I drank pop. I quit drinking pop. And that was the worst withdrawals.
Oh, really?
I've ever experienced.
Oh,
in my
yeah.
life.
The sugar withdrawals. Ooh.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. For a while, I thought I had cancer.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was having night sweats. Everything was off. And then that's what I realized was like, oh, it's because I quit.
Because you're probably pre-diabetic or something even.
I bet.
Like pre-type 2 diabetes, maybe?
Oh, I bet, especially because working in the restaurant.
Depending on if you're eating like all kinds of, the consciousness that people have around that stuff, it's not any fault of their own, but it's just like, that's where I was until I had, again, my own awakening to, oh shit, my chiropractor, first time I went to like an alternative practitioner instead of, the mainstream medicine, which they don't really talk about or teach any of this stuff. He was like, yeah, you're basically almost a diabetic. You better lay off the sugar. Otherwise, I was trying to figure out what's going on with my shin splints. because I couldn't develop muscle tissue and I couldn't develop healthy tissue for the same reason.
Unreal.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's all around us.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. I'll tell you this, because I work with people all the time, and it's the hardest thing is being an American.
Yeah.
It is, because it's in everything. It's in everything around us. But yeah, I cut the sugar out and really started focusing on the 2 cornerstones. So what I do is I help people. It's an 8-step program. It's very simple. I go through 8 simple steps, but it's all centered around how many calories you burn versus how many calories you consume. That's cornerstone 1. Cornerstone number 2 is your breakdown of your macronutrients, which is your fat, your protein, and your carbs. And every client I've ever worked with is completely deficient in protein. The majority of them are deficient in fat, which is wild. All of them consume many carbs. And many carbs come from sugar.
Wheat.
Yes.
Unbleached wheat flour. I mean, just look at the first ingredient in everything and that's in the center of like the kit or the grocery store. You know,
it's everywhere.
It's numero uno everywhere.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. So that is where I really started gaining muscle. So I was 150 pounds and I was 20% body fat when my girlfriend left me. I
can't imagine you were 150 pounds.
It's crazy, yeah. Went in, and what's wild is, like I said, I run into people and they're like, "Who are you?" From the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when people that know me now are like, "You worked at Casa Bonita." They can't even believe it. But this also should be a testament that anybody can change their life.
And that's not a long, I mean, it's been 3 years.
It's been 3 years since I worked at the restaurant, but it's been 7 years since the change.
The incident, since the impetus of like this lifestyle rebirth.
And it's enough to where my children don't remember how I used to be.
Wow.
So when the change happened, my children were very happy because I wasn't drinking alcohol anymore. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that had on them. I was not like abusive with them, or I didn't yell at them. But I was inebriated a lot. And they appreciated that I was coherent and had clarity. And so it's funny. It was funny last night, me and Robbie, my oldest, talked about it. And I said, "Do you remember how I used to be?" And he's like, "No, I don't remember how it was." And he was, he would have been 12 at the time. Wasn't something that you can't remember, but he's like, "Yeah, you can't remember how it was." But anybody can make these changes. Anybody can do it. It's funny. We always see the videos, the memes, the reels where dudes get dumped.
Yeah. It's a class. I mean, it is one of the most ubiquitous and like archetypal versions of what rock bottom means for a lot of men. Yeah. It's like that moment when she left.
Yeah.
That can be enough. And thank God for her for doing
that.
You know?
So, and I'll say it now too. And I don't really talk about her a lot, but, and it's still, there's a little bit of sting, a little bit of hurt that happened, but I understand it wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful she did that. And if she probably would have given me a chance, I would have stumbled and kept doing the same thing. So that awakened me and pushed me to get outside my comfort zone. But what I do is I help people now try to get to that next level, and I do it through very basic steps. My first fitness program I got involved in, I think there was, and this is where I was a client. I wasn't leading it. I think there were 25 people in the group is what it was capped out at. And I believe this is what most trainers do. This is what most fitness professionals do. When you sign up for a program, they give you a packet, an email. They give you some sort of information that details literally everything that you need to do, all of it. And people follow that for 3, 4, 5 days, and then it's over. Always. And I was there were 2 people in our group that stayed through the entire program. And we finished first and second. We were first place and second place in the fitness challenge. Everybody else dropped off. And then when I started doing this for a living, I followed that same model. I would give you all of the information, all of the tools. and my success rate was 0. I had 0 people gaining any results. And then I switched to the steps, and I started very small. The first step is all we do is we track your sleep and water, because these are things you're doing it right now.
Oh yeah,
everybody is. If you don't sleep and if you don't drink, you die.
I mean, it's so great. I love that you're really focused on these fundamentals, and I can talk more about why, but I just want to keep us taking us through the steps.
Yeah, I'll be brief on it because this could probably take up 4 or 5 podcasts
easily. It's not,
but I'll be very brief. But I always start off with just sleep and water, because these are things that you're already doing. And what I do is I get you in the habit of tracking these statistics. And it's less about me trying to tell you how much you need to sleep or how much water you need to drink. And I'll state this for the record now. All health organizations last October switched their standards. It used to be humans are supposed to drink a half an ounce to an ounce of water per pound of body weight. They switched that last October to your urine color. Your urine color is supposed to be
indicator.
An indicator, light yellow.
Yeah.
So,
or blue.
Or blue.
Sorry, I've been taking a supplement called methylene blue. It'll actually turn your pee blue.
Is this real?
Yeah, I'll let you have some. It's a fun experience.
Okay, well, I'm excited now. Blue pee. Wow. So I never tell people what they should be doing.
I love that.
I try to team up with people and just assist with accountability. And we're teammates in this together. And so my goal is to get you to track these statistics, and then you gain awareness about what you're doing. If you're tracking your sleep, well, it becomes important to you now. And I don't need to tell you what you need to do. But 2, once you get into the habit of tracking that statistic, and if you can do that for 7, 10, 15 days, then we increase intensity. And so that's what my program is we always increase intensity, but we will not go to the next level until you've mastered the current level. Some people are already at step 5, level 5 when they meet me. Some people, we're months in and they can only get into step 3 or 4, which is fine.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
But it's how do we improve ourselves little by little over time, because this is what's sustainable. And I believe what most people struggle with is a major change that needs to shift them. And I'm one of the lucky people that a major change worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody. Most people aren't like that. So it is, how do you change your life incrementally?
Yeah.
And that's all we do, and understanding that this is something, any diet that you're going to get on, these crash diets, they work until they're done.
Yeah.
And then when it's over, where do you go?
Exactly. I mean, I treat all of those things, and every program almost that I ever interact with and engage with, as it's a journey.
Yeah.
And it's an awareness journey. It's to increase my awareness of this new dimension of health, that someone's approached it from this angle. And that can help bring, like you said, once I have the awareness, I don't need to will myself through these things. It becomes part of the way I operate, because I just know, okay, I'm not getting enough sleep. My pee's gold, you know. I need to do something about that. It's not something that I have to focus on and make habitual, which I don't know what you feel like. I have a little thing with habits and things. I love that people can use that to build themselves an on-ramp and build momentum. And the conscious choice is how you can get to the next level of intensity usually.
Yeah.
And the habit has to have room for that programmed in, which sounds like your program does really well, which is it's always adaptive to where someone's at. And it's always about empowering them in their ownership of that mental thing that we talked about in the very beginning, where it all comes down to just, you can do it, and you just have to know that you can.
Yeah. And just do it.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues at the gym, his name is Heido, and we had a a video shoot a few weeks ago, and our goal was give us your number one fitness tip. And so Heido got on and we said, what's your number one tip? And he's like, quit bullshitting. Don't bullshit yourself. You don't need me to tell you what you need to do. You already know. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then we'll help you with it. So that's a lot of why I love what I do, is because you just help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so great at helping people. I mean, I can't push myself like that on my own in that setting, in cardio and in stretching. There's specific things, and parkour being one of them, where again, I was lucky enough, like you were lucky enough, to have something that really motivated me to become super healthy and just to get more and more conscious about my body and actually how it operates and what's going to work and what doesn't. And run some experiments to build upon so I can master certain levels and move on to the next one. But still, another revelation that I had further down the road was I can't do everything on my own.
Yeah.
It'd be great if I could, that in principle, sometimes even like maybe I should be able to, but ultimately I don't really care about any of that. Like, I know now that if I want to push myself that way, I got to go to Red Rocks or I got to go to your class.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm going to get the best out of me in
that
that
means
realm.
so much to me. That means so much to
because
me.
I can't do that on my own. I will not. I won't push myself. I can't crack the whip that hard on myself for some reason.
Yeah, I do like that a lot. And it does mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
I feel how I feel about the groups that I administer are, and I'll tell you, it means a lot to me that you give me the kudos and you give me the praise. It means a lot to me. But I honestly believe, well, I know what it is. It's something that we as a group have created together. When I first started this endeavor, even at CorePower, I remember my classes were like 2 and 3 people, and I'm trying to will people to get to the next level. And the shift happened when I started taking feedback from the people, and instead of me creating a class or me creating an environment, it was us building it together. All of my quotes, all of my programming, the music I use, everything has come from the community. We've put this together and it's built over time. So a lot of times I feel like I'm just riding a wave. And I know there's sometimes I feel like I have to push the momentum. It's very rare now. I feel like I'm pushing the envelope. Like today, you saw it.
Yeah.
I'm at the back of the group. I was just hanging at the back, the people that are, because I know there's you, there's Matt, there's today was Aaron as well. Aaron was up there.
Yeah.
There's people that push, and I can count on you to go to the next level, and then I can help the people in the back try to get to their next level.
Well, that's your genius. Yeah. I mean, that's the genius of like a real leader. And that is why you ultimately, I think, deserve the kudos. And yes, everyone deserves it for showing up, because by showing up, you don't know what you're going to do for the group. Yeah, you might be showing up for yourself, but like I just found out, I might actually be having a greater impact on those around me than I ever even intended to.
Yeah.
And which is why it's so cool when people show up and who shows up and why.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that is an amazing genius of yours, is to actually be able to take your ego out of it and let what needs to happen.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun for me.
Yeah,
it's been a lot of fun.
Well, now let's get into that class, that yoga class, a little bit, because
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everyone understands at least yet. When you think of CorePower and when you think of yoga in studios, there's sort of a vibe that comes to mind for most people, and it's a little bit more parasympathetic than sympathetic. Zen. Yeah. It might be hot, might be, but it's not intensity. Is not the word that most people use, or if it's intense, it's maybe just because it's a really hot class, and some people really push the envelope with the heat, and I like that too. But it is still very much just holding postures. What people don't necessarily always realize when they show up for one of your classes is there's a whole nother dimension. And what's so interesting is that now has become why everyone shows up to that class. And then when you're out of town and the teacher doesn't know how to do that, they're like, this just isn't it, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you heard that. I'm sure you've heard, whispers, and bless the teachers that are covering for you, obviously. But at the same time, the students miss that because they are showing up to, like I just mentioned, get pushed, to get themselves to that next level and to really resonate with the energy of the room of you create that container where it's like, yeah, we're all going to go harder than maybe we thought we could, but we always find ourselves capable at the end.
Yeah. I remember, so I have a mentor. Her name is Rita Fountain. She's the reason I got into yoga. Mm-hmm. And at the beginning, I was only bodybuilding. So that's all I was doing, was just trying to get jacked. I was putting, a lot of protein in my body. I put on about 40 pounds of muscle, feeling good. And Rita said, you need to come take my class. And I was like, yoga? Yeah, right. She kept telling me, she goes, no, it's intense. And it is. Everybody thinks that. Everybody thinks that about yoga. Like, I'm just going to go in there and stretch. And granted, there are teachers that are that way. And that is why people think that.
Yeah.
And I get that there are instructors, there are classes. There is an element to yoga that is more Zen. My experiences were not that. My first yoga class I went to was Yoga Sculpt with Rita Fountain at the Littleton studio. I walked in, there's a bunch of women in the room. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, oh, this is great. Take my shirt off. I'm all jacked. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to show every one of you up in here. You have no idea the
classic
whirlwind.
Dude faux or maneuver, like just
oh yeah.
Every dude's first yoga class is this.
That class started and I was completely humbled. I was embarrassed. I was absolutely embarrassed. The ending couldn't come quick enough. I walked out. I was drenched in sweat, and I was like, that is the hardest workout I'd ever done. And then I was addicted. Mm. And from then on, that was my experience with yoga always. I only went to Yoga Sculpt, and I only went to Rita's class. And Rita kept telling me, you need to go take a hot power fusion. I was like, I'm not going to go do yoga. Same thing, yoga. Even though I'm doing yoga, whatever. And I went and took her hot power fusion class. Completely different. It's a fusion of hot style yoga, which is more of holding poses, which is very intense as well. Hot yoga is very intense. Blended with power, which is vinyasa. Power yoga means vinyasa, which is breath with movement. So you're moving with your breath. It was like 105 degrees. Oh, I died in there. And then I was addicted to that. And that's all I wanted to do is hot power fusion. I did not want to take a C2 class. Got into the C2. Every experience I've had with the yoga has been, it's just intense. So Rita made me her +1. I would go for free all the time. Rita got a job with Charlotte's Web as their, she does like their partnerships with Charlotte's Web right now. She's very successful. So she told me, she said, hey, I'm not going to be here anymore. You're not going to get my +1. So you got to pay for a membership. But if you get on the cleaning crew, you get on the cleaning crew and you get a discount. So it's pretty much free. I was like, oh, sign me up. So I got on the cleaning crew. From there, I got talked in to be a teacher. They said, you need to go take the teacher training program. I went to the teacher training program. I can't tell you how intimidating that was. I walked into teacher training, opened up the door, looked in. It's all these 18, 19, 20-year-old girls. I'm an old man with gray hair. I walked in that room and I was like, I do not fit here. And it was intimidating to me. I went in there. All of these girls seemed like they knew what they were doing. They were bred. They were meant to be yoga instructors. And I'm just this old man that works at Casa Bonita. Halfway through, it was Halloween. We had teacher training during Halloween. It was the first Halloween I missed for my children. I always took my kids out trick-or-treating. That was their last year of trick-or-treating, coincidentally, because they weren't little kids anymore. I didn't take them, so I was kind of bummed. And I didn't feel like it was for me. I was an inhale and an exhale away from standing up and walking out and saying, I'm done with this. And one of the instructors pulled me aside and said, and it's something I'll always remember, this is not my time. This is your time. This is your space. This is your mat, Robbie. You take what you want from it. You give back what you can. And I'll always remember that. I went back in, breathe out. Who cares what happens? And from that moment on, I knew I was going to be a teacher. I finished my training, got certified. One of the instructors, her name was Kata. She said, Robbie, you want to teach now, huh? I was like, oh yeah, I'm showing up to the audition. She goes, what audition? I was like, the audition. I know there's one like at this studio. She goes, you can't go to that. I go, why? She goes, you have to get invited. I said, well, who invites you? She goes, a studio manager. I said, okay. Are you a studio manager? Yeah. Invite me. She goes, it doesn't work that way. So I was deflated. You know, I just spent all this money, time, effort, energy into getting certified to find out I would never teach a class. And I was on the cleaning crew. So what I would do is I would go and clean, and then late at night I had access to the studio. I would put my playlist on. I'd go in the studio, turn the lights on, and I would teach to an empty room. And on Christmas Eve, April Zimmelman, who was the manager for the Littleton studio, she walked in on me. It was like 10 o'clock at night, Christmas Eve. I'm alone. And I thought I was in trouble. She walked in. She's like, what the fuck are you doing in here? I was like, I'm practicing. She goes, for what? I said, I want to teach. She goes, you want to teach that bad? I said, yeah. She goes, why don't you come in on Thursday and we'll let you do a class. I walked in on Thursday. It's supposed to be me and April. April goes, do you just want to teach the class? I said, hell yeah. Went in. It was like 45 people. It was packed. And that was the end of it. It was one of the worst classes I ever taught, but from then on I was in.
Nice.
You know, and that was kind of everything changed. So I'm still there. My goal is to eventually have my own gym. I have my brand, which is called Mobile Muscle.
Hey.
Yeah, that's my eventual goal, is to get passive income from that through ebooks, nutrition programming. I still feel like I'm about 2 years away from that, but getting closer. But I don't think I'll ever leave CorePower Yoga, simply because of the experience that I get there, the community, and it's just free marketing. It's every time I'm in front of a group of people in there. That's why it's like my social media, I don't really market all that much. I mean, I share things that people say, but it's mostly being in the studio that kind of gets me. I mean, it's honestly, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
You know, even though we're neighbors, that's where I, met you, was through Kira, met you. And that's why I'm here today on this. And I can't tell you, I've been so excited about this all, for 3 weeks since we planned. I've been very excited to do this, which was interesting because I came to you and was like, hey, I'd like to interview you for my Instagram. And you were like, I do this. And I was like, really? And you're like, yeah, I got a studio. And so I'm glad that it worked out.
I'm so glad. Yeah, this is, again, another beautiful treat of life for me that just showed up at the right time. And, I've been wanting to reach out and do more. Obviously, I don't know what you know about the podcast. And height drop, the phrase comes from parkour. It's kind of a slang for just a big drop. When you take, it's sort of like a pejorative, not even a pejorative, but it's an inside joke for parkour practitioners for taking big drops. And
okay, explain this.
It's kind of like something that it's tongue in cheek because you would never really want to just take a big height drop. It's not good for your body, but also people would start to take them to flex on, the internet and whatever, and just show like how much drop, what's the highest thing they could just drop off of.
Interesting.
And it's kind of like satirical in that way. And so I loved that phrase because I had some other repurposes in my mind for what it could mean in more of an existential and more of a universal manner. Because I do think that, you go on the website for that. But anyhow, it's like, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And it reminds me of my roots in parkour. And that's what got me into fitness. That's what got me into thinking about my life in a bit more of a useful and service-oriented way even. And really sharpening my sword is, I used to, this T-shirt was the first brand that my friends and I started.
Wow.
Myrmidons. And
what is it called?
It was called Myrm, which was short for Myrmidons, which were these Greek warriors.
Wow.
And we had like all draw your sword, sharpen your sword. We had all these sword references because the Greeks used their swords. And anyhow, so that was this sort of genesis behind this show. But then, I've wanted to really expand it. And so I love that I had the opportunity to have you on.
Yeah.
This has been more perfect conversation than I ever thought it would have been even.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. I've been telling everybody all week, today we had a teacher class where they were going to teach us more assistance.
Mm-hmm.
So how to like assist people in their poses, which is an interesting story in itself. I don't do assists. You've been in my class. I don't touch people.
No.
It's just something I don't do. They really wanted me to be there for that. I would have shown up for it, but I'm still never going to touch anybody. It's just not my...
It's not how you run a class.
It's not how I do it. And I've been on the other end of human resources, where you're adminning men touching a woman. I just don't do that. But, today they had that and they said, are you going to stay? And I said, no, I'm going on to a podcast. They go, what podcast? I go, yeah, it's about parkour. They go, really? I was like, yeah, we're going to talk about parkour, which is nuts because this is the first time it's come up.
Yeah.
Is right now. I do know my kids are fascinated with it. My youngest, Joshua, thinks you are a superhero because he sees your online content and he's just like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, he lives right a couple houses up from us. You know what I mean? He's right there, but it's very impressive. Kira as well. The content that she puts up too is just incredible as well. Both of what you guys do.
She's insane. I mean, she's not only is she a brilliant parkour practitioner, but she, a world champion pole.
Oh yeah.
Performer. She's really, really getting into dance and is becoming super expert at that. And her ballet, I mean, she just does the whole thing. And of course in yoga, is
next level.
Is just, she's, I don't know anyone who's more fit and more, like you said, kind of focused and present to her practice.
Well, it's you too. It's the two of you together. You guys are a match made in heaven for sure. Because it was, like I said, it was funny when she came out of the driveway that first day and I was like, oh my God, this is where the dude lived. Now it all makes sense. Oh my God, it all makes sense. Of course, the two people I talked about, I was like, yeah, they're together for sure.
I definitely feel super lucky and she's one of those people that calls me to my highest too. And it pushes me. Yeah.
Which I think is, and for those of you watching, listening, I can't speak enough how important that is being in a relationship that lacks a sense of comfort. Not saying you shouldn't be comfortable with your partner, but you need to be in a relationship that forces being uncomfortable because this is where you're going to grow together. And this is where, I mean, it's funny. My girlfriend, Sunny, we go out and we'll do like trail runs. And I always have to remind myself, this is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. You wanted to be with somebody that's going to push you because she takes off. And I'm like, geez, you're just struggling to keep up. But it's like, this is what you signed up for.
Yeah.
You wanted to be with a partner, somebody that pushes you to get outside and work to that next level, and most people don't have that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I want to get back, I guess, to the steps. We went,
oh yeah,
doing all kinds of stuff, but just to pick up where we left off.
I'll just tell you, because, and like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it.
Yeah.
And I'll plug myself here.
Yeah.
I offer a free month of this. So I do accountability and nutrition training and coaching. If that's something you're interested in, and I'm sure you'll put this in the video description.
Oh, yeah.
My email address is rob@mobilemusclemax.com. You can email me there and I can set up a free month with you and go through this program with you. In essence, the 8 steps gets you to tracking your caloric output versus what your input is.
The macros.
And then, that's your calories. And then the other part is getting your macros, and that's getting an even balance of the 3. But it's just overwhelming. Life will inevitably derail you. No matter what, it's going to sideswipe you, and whatever plan you had is going to be thrown out the window. That's why I believe in the steps is take just step 1. You get derailed, go back to step 1, and then throw step 2 in. And then eventually you're back to step 8 where you're doing all of this together. As opposed to, I gotta throw everything in at once, and that's my only way to succeed. It doesn't work for most people. It's just not how it is, realistically.
It falls outside the zone of proximal development is what, this famous researcher used to call it. And this was something that I brought into my parkour training as well, is there's a lot of momentum you can build by picking the right challenge. So, like your son Josh, he's going to look at me doing whatever on Instagram. And he's going to be like, that's insane. And it is insane for him to do it because he hasn't had any practice.
Yeah.
But the way that you get to that is just the same way you're talking about. It's just baby incremental steps. And it's just, you don't go out, you can't be inside your comfort zone forever. Otherwise you'll never grow. But if you pick the right challenge, the one that's just on the edge, and you just continuously pick the right one, eventually the right one is insane looking to everyone else.
Absolutely.
But it's the humility actually that it takes to pick the right challenge when you're first getting started, or even when you have a lot of good days in a row, you still have to wake up every morning going, okay, where am I at? Where am I really at right now? And what's the right challenge for me to develop some momentum? Because even
Beautiful.
if I did a wild backflip, through over a roof gap yesterday, it's a new day, whatever.
Unreal. I have a little bit of a background with parkour, but not really. Mm-hmm. So, and this is probably disingenuous. I don't even know. But when I grew up, and that's why I love that you got a trampoline out back. That's just awesome. I grew up on a trampoline. We always had a trampoline growing up, and I grew up in Kansas, Dodge City, Kansas. I moved here when I was in high school, so and I went to Arvada West. Went to Arvada West, and
as a freshman or
as a sophomore.
Okay.
So my first day, I remember walking in and was like, I never want to go back to Kansas. But when I was in Kansas, we always had a trampoline, and I remember, and it's just crazy because you talk about backflips. I could do flips, and I could do 2 front flips. I could jump on the trampoline and hit 2 front flips in the air and land.
Oh, nice.
On my feet. Yeah, and I had a level of dexterity, but I could not do a backflip. I could not, and it's crazy because I've always heard a backflip is easier than a front flip.
It is. It's just scarier.
But you know what? It's in your head, right?
Yeah.
It was just always in my head. I could even fall back on my back, so I could jump on my back
and then
do a backflip, but it was still a little bit of a rotation. So I was going over my shoulder as opposed to, I just don't know what it is. And I have an extreme fear of heights. So much so that if there's heights on TV, like if you're watching TV and someone's up and they look over the edge, my butthole clenches. I'm like, I'm on the edge of my seat. So I have a high level of respect, for what you do, that Kira does, that you do together, your community. You have something. It's impressive. It's expression. I love that you can do that. You can express yourself. It's free flowing. Mm-hmm. You kind of pick your path, and it's fascinating to me to watch it and to see it. And I'm always just, I don't know if jealous is the right word, but it always kind of stings. I was like, fuck, I wish I could do that stuff, but I know I could. It's just, you got to push yourself,
Yeah.
You do. You got to get outside your comfort zone and do it.
Yeah, and it's never too late. And I'd be happy to take you out back, and maybe we could get you to backflip finally, or maybe we.
Dude, I would love that.
We'll try that after we wrap up here, if you have some time.
Yeah, I might need a diaper. You might need to get me one of those adult
we got
diapers.
Some pads. We got some.
Okay, yeah, you might.
You're kind of a big dude. I don't like spotting people that are bigger than me, but I could maybe work with you. We'll see.
Yeah, at the restaurant too, I worked with a lot of divers, and that was always a lot of fun too. Those guys were.
Oh yeah.
I had. The dive team would take me out and work out with me, and I would bring them to the gym and I would do a workout. So they would come with me and lift weights, and then I would go and do like their swimming workouts. And I just remember how intense.
Swimming is one of the most brutal cardio things I think maybe you can do at all.
I agree. I 100% agree.
Swimming laps is the only thing that's actually made me throw up in my life.
And that's humbling as well. Yeah. Is swimming. And then those guys, their core strength, because they did I learned a lot of core exercises from them that were, and they did a good job of teaching mind to muscle, that connection, which if there's 2 things that I can preach about fitness is one is getting your form correct and doing things correctly. And then 2 is creating a mind to muscle connection that allows you to use progressive overload. But those guys did a good job of teaching me. That's a phrase you always hear me say is mind to muscle connection. And that is trying to get your brain to connect with the specific muscle group. And that's one thing that I'm sure that that's how you guys are as well, is figuring out what muscle you need to activate to get to that next level. Or
Yeah. It's a surreal experience sometimes where, obviously everyone's different. I have the sort of constitution where if I get into the right state of mind, I can do some really amazing stuff, but I'm not very consistent. So I kind of oscillate. Like I'll have these huge peaks and I'll have some pretty low valleys. I'll have off days where I'm just way off, and it's actually ridiculous. You wouldn't think that I could. It's not even safe for me to do the stuff that I have done because there's quite a bit of variability in my ability. But when I get into the right zone, it's perfect and I'm completely safe. And over the years, it's incrementally gone up, my sort of baseline, and it's kind of squished a little because my risk aversion is a little bit higher now that I'm older and a little less insane. And but I also think that's that's just a character type, and that's just who I am as an athlete. And it's good for me to know that because it takes the pressure off when I'm, kind of failing. I'm just not having one of those good days. So what else can I do? Maybe I can pick some smaller challenges. And if I redirect my focus, there's always there's place and gains to be made in a certain area. There's other athletes that I know, another guy that's been on the podcast a million times, Max Henry, who is sort of like the opposite of that. He's super, super consistent. He's almost always able to do what he can do. Meaning he actually just operates at a super high level, but he's had to really work hard to get there. He's not had like the chance to like have all these peaks and valleys. He's just had like a slow rise, and he's always consistent, and he can almost always do what he wants to do. Good days, bad days, he's like pretty much there. There's like little oscillations, but it's not the amplitude that you see in my training. But he has to train consistently. It's not like, it's just different. So I don't know where
Everybody's
exactly
different.
I was going. Exactly. That was all my intention was, I guess. It's just, you have to know yourself, and you have to know what your body type is and what your body responds to and what your mind responds to.
Yeah.
In training.
I'm going to say this too. You have a fantastic vocabulary. You're very eloquent with your words.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Were you good in English in school?
I think so.
Yeah. You practice a lot.
I didn't practice a lot. I did score the highest on the English part of the ACT.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But,
yeah, cause
also, doing podcasting has helped with that.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, I feel like mine, listening to you talk, I'm like, I have a very basic vocabulary.
I don't know. I don't feel that way, but I feel like I'm stuttering and tripping over myself often enough. But maybe that kind of mindset is what brought me into trying to speak a little bit more eloquently.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I remembered the thing, and I know I still do it a lot, but my big thing was trying not to say the word So that's always what I try to focus on is when you get to that point is just speaking slower so it doesn't come out as but it's still hard. I know I still do that.
Yeah.
I also try to avoid the word like.
That one's my Achilles heel right now still.
Is like.
I'll say that.
Yeah, I don't really hear you say that, but I do know your vocabulary is impressive. Very impressive.
That's right. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Hey, this is why we're doing it here, right?
Yeah. Oh man. I appreciate that. It's something I've tried to develop for sure. Trying to be an orator. This is in a way my ideal profession is to be talking to people like you, sharing their insights and the wisdom and the personalities and the people in the community. Another thing I wanted to talk about is you are just a staple. I feel like you're a big tentpole for the community. And I'm still just kind of seeing you from afar, and I'm getting to know you more and more. And I feel like, there's that word, that you are this powerful person in our community, and you lift everyone up around you. I feel like this whole thing is a circus sometimes, and it's a big tent, and you're one of these big tent poles that's really helping elevate and lift everyone up. And I don't know if that's something, you talked about the 3 hours you delegate to that community building on purpose, intentionally. And it's something that I don't see a lot of. And it's really cool to see it these days because as the world's getting crazier, and this is sort of a whole other meta conversation, it's something that feels necessary, especially in times like this when we talked about the division within culture and the sort of ridiculousness of what's coming down, top down from the government, or, it's hard to get on board with anything meaningful except in your kind of local communities. And we talk about decentralization and blockchain and stuff, these emerging technologies. And I feel like the community, like taking things back down to that grassroots level, the tribal level, in some ways, is going to be one of these sort of key features of the next iteration of society. Like as it goes to the next level, as conscious as the human, or at least the American culture upregulates and goes up to its next expression from wherever we're at now, we have to kind of go to our next level too. And I think that decentralizing is part of that. And we need people that are actually leaders locally, not just leaders in the White House, because that's not really working for, I think, a lot of people anymore.
I agree. My favorite author is Kurt Vonnegut.
Ooh, I got to read more Kurt Vonnegut. My roommate in college was Kurt Vonnegut all day long.
Yeah, I love Vonnegut. He didn't really write a bunch of nonfiction. Most of his stuff is fiction, but he's brilliant. And he said something that I always remembered was, one day you wake up and realize the people you went to high school with are ruling the world, are the ones running everything. And as I get older, I start seeing that people that I went to high school with are in bigger positions and they're kind of handling bigger things. For me, I feel like I'm just in a whirlwind and kind of, redefining myself in my 40s. I had Casa Bonita was my life, and I felt that that's where I was going to retire. That's where I was going to be, and it didn't pan out for me the way that I thought it would. And now that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of redefining myself. So I feel like I'm almost like in a whirlwind, and I don't believe that I'm going to be one of those. And this may sound crazy, but this is just how it is. I'm just speaking freely. I just don't believe that I'm going to be one of those leaders, but I feel like I'm in a unique position to impact the leaders around me. And that in time, opportunities open up because of the relationships and the level of integrity that I stick to right now. So my whole goal is to make Jefferson County in Colorado. My goal is to have Jefferson County be a fitness staple in the United States, where people that are in Arizona or Ohio, where they're like, oh my God, I was in Colorado, you should see what those guys are doing up there. That people are talking about not me and not my class or my group, but the community as a whole. God, you got to see what they're doing in Jefferson County. Those guys work. They get down. And I believe that as that rises up and I'm a member of that community and a leader in that community, allows me to rise up as well, which allows me to interact with more of the people that I went to high school with. So when they need help in this endeavor, I'm one of the people that sticks out, which is, to be honest, that could never have happened to me at Casa Bonita, because that's really all I am, is a restaurant. Work at a restaurant. So it's like, yeah, if you need a table by the water, you call Robbie. But now it is, well, there's a whole level of avenues and opportunities that are open now, because it's about helping people and events and groups and how do we, these type of things that are bigger than just making money. It's something that's impactful in people's lives, where they talk about you and us and the group. And it's something, just like earlier, you didn't realize the impact you had on Caleb's life and how that in turn impacts Gerson and what he deals with on a daily basis. So for all of us is, how do we build our community and our groups so we rise up and it has meaning? It has something deeper than I'm just trying to take your money and grow my estate to a level that I'll never even need. Yeah. So I just believe we're in a unique place. When marijuana got legalized here in Colorado, it boomed. We were one of the first places in the country to do that, and that's where the big boom started. People started moving here. The growth is happening. I know a lot of people here don't like it. I don't like it because things are more expensive. There's more traffic, but we're we're in the heart of some major growth and some major opportunities. Look at parkour. You being a staple in the parkour community, this is something that's going to be worldwide.
Oh, it is super worldwide.
And you're a staple in that. And that becomes something that's more than just, we're trying to make some money. Because in 10, 15, 20 years from now, what matters? It's the relationships, it's the community, it's the impact, it's the growth. It's our legacy being tied into what people talk about, as opposed to, dude, that guy drives a nice car and he's got a lot of money, because nobody cares.
Yeah.
So that's what my goal is. My goal is just to be tied into success. People ask me about like my rates. What are my rates? It's all tiered. I charge different prices depending on what your goals are. I will do just about anything to work with someone that's successful, because to me, that's more important than money. So yeah, you can't afford it. I'll work with you. I'll do anything if you're successful, because that's going to get us to the next level together. And that's what people talk about, So that's ultimately what my goal is. And I love that you talk about that. It makes me feel good that I'm tied in with this community. I'm a beginner in this. I'm just a beginner. I've only got a few certifications in fitness. A lot of what I'm doing is tied into my individual success. The yoga has helped me because the community is growing. I keep track of my numbers, how many people I talk to a week. I remember when I was trying to break 190. If I could talk to 190 people throughout the week about fitness, I'm happy. I just breached 335. So I'm getting close to doubling where I was less than 12 months ago. And then what is that going to be? Where am I going to be when I'm impacting 1,000 people a week? And it's never money. It's people, experiences, impact. How do you create that? Because that is where inevitably in the end it all comes into, that money, the wealth, whatever you want to call it, it all erupts out of success and groups of people,
Wow, man, I love that. Yeah, it's really powerful. I think that you really embody that, and I think that's why people resonate and respond to you so well. It's amazing to have somebody who really is focused on the right thing and really wants to help people that way. Like, why do you feel like fitness is so powerful in leveling up someone's life for them?
Well, for me is because what it did for me individually. So a lot of what we do is what impacts us individually. And that's what changed my life, was getting into fitness and getting my nutrition dialed in. And, Arnold said something about a physique. A physique, if you have a strong physique, you walk into a room and people immediately respect you because that's something that you didn't borrow. It's something that you didn't buy. It was something that you built and created through hard work, determination, and consistency. So for me, my level of confidence is much greater than it used to be, because it's funny. I used to play basketball a lot. And when I was 150 pounds, man, I could not, you go into a gym to get a pickup game, nobody would pick me. Nobody picked me as a skinny fat kid. I could ball, I could play great hoops, but nobody knew that until the game started going. Well, now I don't really practice basketball. I'm not good. But when I go to a gym, I'm one of the first people picked, and I'm always like, yo, I can't play. Like, no, get on our team. And they start, and they're like, yeah, we should have listened to you. I ran a racquetball ladder. Same thing. I ran this racquetball ladder at the Wheat Ridge Rec Center, and I'd always show up, and you walk in, I'm in a tank top, and they're like, oh, shit. I'm like, no, dude, trust me. But there's a level of that. You think that that's tied into success, and
it is actually. I mean, I just heard a statistic, and it's the internet. I mean, who knows? But I believe, I don't even believe it. I know it's true. I've seen it, and I understand that. Basically, what the statistic was saying was that people perform better if they are coming from collegiate sports. It was the thing that they studied essentially, particularly individual sports, apparently. I mean, there's like also tennis and
wrestling,
gymnastics and stuff like that, because they do require this self-motivated discipline, this sort of thing that you're talking about, which is you are more able to direct the course of your life. And the evidence is you're wearing it.
I agree. I do agree with that. I also believe that people need a little tipping into that direction. I think it's fascinating. I've always heard this. You probably heard it too. People will spend a lot of money on their car, their hobbies. They'll spend a lot of money on things, but they will not invest money into their health. And whenever somebody comes in, they'll buy a big package from me and we start working together. It's always the same thing. This was the best money I've ever spent.
Health is wealth. They always say that too, though, right?
Always.
I mean, you don't have anything when you're sick. And you never realize it until you're sick. And you're just like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
My life is just survival. And it's not comfortable. It's nothing benefit. When you're sick, you don't have anything, really.
Well, and I'm going to tell you this. And for anybody listening that's struggling with health, or if you're overweight, I'm going to tell you this right now. And this is something I heard, and Brandon, you probably heard it too. You think it's hard working out every day. You think it's hard managing your nutrition and logging your food. Try not doing it and see how hard your life is, because it is hard. Being overweight, being able to not move, not eating healthy, that is so much harder than what we are doing in our lives right now. It is hard, and we have to be consistent.
Yeah. And you can't go back.
Never.
Once you know the truth, you red pill yourself basically, and it's over from there. I mean, of course I'm grateful for it. Like, I would never want to choose otherwise.
Yeah.
However, there's this knowing now of, my most elite moments of athleticism, just knowing that body and that capability exists.
Yeah.
Now, when I just get a little bit off it's hard to even get a little bit away from it without starting to feel like deader and just devitalized when I'm, even if I wanted to put some more energy towards my career, or I want to put some more energy towards, my family, or if I'm Trey Parker and Matt Stone and I want to do something creative and make a musical, there's certain things where it's like, okay, even if I wanted to be perfectly fit, I still want to do some of these other things more. However, I'm just saying you can't go back. Like, once you know what fitness really feels like on you, you're not going to want to really let it go.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It is. It's a daily grind.
Yeah.
It's every day. It's something you got to pay attention to on a daily basis. But you can't let it go. Once it's like you've been to the promised land.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave the promised land. You want to stay in there.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting how the human body is and how it works. But like I said, most people are. It's fascinating that most people don't want to put into their body, knowing that that's something that you have to deal with on a daily basis. No matter what, you can't escape it. But it is, once you invest into it, then you realize, you're like, oh, okay, that was a smart decision. It's something that's impacts everything in your life.
Yeah.
It's also funny for me, and I know a little bit of this is age, but I always look back and I'm like, 10 years ago, how was I even living? I don't even know how I was doing it. And I know a lot of it is because I'm growing and maturing.
Yeah.
But now it's like I budget time, effort, energy. I budget all of it. And I'm like, I have no time. Back then I had no time, and it was all filled up with partying. I'd stay up until 3, 4 in the morning, and then you got to go to work at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping 3, 4 hours. You had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
It's just funny how it works. I'll tell you this, a real brief story too.
Please.
My childhood friend, this was in Garden City, Kansas. So I was born and raised in Dodge City. Elementary school days was in Garden City, Kansas. My best friend growing up, his name was Tran. And I grew up as a strict Jehovah's Witness. My parents were very strict Jehovah's Witnesses. And in a small farm town in Kansas, there weren't many of us. So I was a little bit of an outcast, didn't have a lot of friends. Venon was a war refugee. His parents were refugees from the Vietnam War. They came to America, and we were both little outcasts, and we teamed up and became friends. And we loved WWF, so Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, that's who we loved. And we loved video games. And what we used to do is we used to get notebooks and we used to write video games. And when we grew up, we parted ways. I moved to Colorado. He moved to Missouri. And we just never saw each other again during the pandemic. He contacted me, said, hey, he's a musician. Okay. He said, hey, I'm not doing gigs anymore. I'm losing my fitness. I need some help with it. I said, cool. We set up a Zoom meeting. I started telling about my 8 steps, about journaling. And Venon said, wait. He opened up his book and put it up in front of the screen. He goes, I already do all this. I said, oh my God. He goes, yeah, I'm already doing all this. I said, okay, well, I can help you with it. But what happened was I helped him with his nutrition, but he helped me budget my life. So what we did was, and he has a very similar approach to me, we loved The Legend of Zelda growing up.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't, right? The new game that just came out, Tears of the Kingdom, right? I think, is that what it's called?
I haven't folled it.
Okay, I think it's called Tears of the Kingdom.
In 64 days. I need to get back on the horse, but...
Okay. So it's, The Legend of Zelda is still huge today, but one of the parts of the game is hearts. So you start the game off with 3 hearts, and those are your life.
Yeah.
And then as you progress through the game, you get more hearts, so more energy. You get more life, which allows you to get hit more so you can go into harder situations. And so that's what Venon helped me with. He gave me 3 hearts. And those 3 hearts were, we need to budget 3 hours a week for important things. And now I'm up to, I have 64 hearts. And they're all different colors. I have different colored hearts. I budget them out throughout the week. And that is where I get my community work. I budget, those are my purpose in life. So I budget 3 hours a week to push my purpose, which is to help the community with fitness. But it is very crazy how life works out. A childhood friend went to school with, contacts me to help him with nutrition, and he completely changed my life around. So yeah, that's why I get those numbers where it's like, where did you get the 3 hours? It was, and that number could go up. Obviously, as my green hearts are pro services. And I think I have too much pro services going on, but I'm building a brand. I'm building a business. So I have a lot of green hearts right now. I'm at 48 hearts right now. So just in pro services I provide to people about 48 hours a week. And then I budget about 8 hours for management, which is my orange hearts. And that's texting people, programming, writing things for clients. But yeah, it's just interesting how I've graduated through that. So Venon, if you do listen to this, dude, you and he knows this. Yeah. We text every day. Yeah. For a long time, I didn't talk to him for probably 20 years. And now we text every single day because we're sharing our information.
Wow.
And that's what I do with accountability. The accountability is not you send me your information and I say, good job. It's you send me your information and I send you my information. So we're a team together. So you see, I'm preaching what I'm doing as well. Yeah. This isn't like I'm telling you what you need to do and I'm not doing it. No, I live this lifestyle as well.
That is another upgrade, I think, for the culture that I see coming. Like, you know, these upgrades I kind of mentioned earlier, is it's not enough now to be able to say it. We are, as a race, as a human species, like, I don't see people responding to people that aren't doing anymore.
Yeah.
There's too much, you know, the bullshit. We got to stop bullshitting ourselves. Yeah. And the internet, the beauty of it is it generated so much bullshit that now, in a way, it becomes an awareness activator where people now can go, okay, I know I really can't just trust anything. I actually have to use my discernment. I have to there's so much out there. You have to bring it in and navigate your life now for real, instead of just following, whatever script was written for previous generations. And that liberates you to identify the real leaders. And the leaders are the people that could really walk the walk, like you're saying.
I agree
so
with that.
glaringly, again, with the internet, that's another gift, is it becomes transparent now to a degree. If you're not transparent, you're already giving your cards away. You're like, you're full of shit.
Yes. It all comes out.
Yeah.
It all comes out eventually.
It's all coming
know
out.
that.
Yeah, the rug, we peeled the corner up and it's dirty and the rug's still going and we're going to find all the dirt.
Oh, yeah.
But you're not putting the rug back down. It's just like there's just one giant rug pull going on for everyone. And we're going to find out all the shit that we need to.
Yeah.
So
it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it, I guess. And again, like, just to keep showering you with compliments here, because I think you are, that is a super unique and powerful gift that you have, is to really help people. That not everyone's going to be able to do it themselves. There's a few freaks out there that are like you that can really set the bar. And you also need everyone else. Everyone needs everybody.
Yes.
Everyone needs each other.
Yes. That's the thing. In my profession, in my colleagues specifically, I know I'm the only one, and this is not a knock against my colleagues. My colleagues are all amazing individuals, and they all have traits that I don't have. There's things that they excel in that I just can't do. But what I believe separates me from everybody else is the fact that what I ask of you, I do it as well. Not just to the extent, because I think most fitness trainers are in good shape. Most of them are.
Yeah.
And they, to an extent, walk the walk. But what they don't do, they're not sharing their food logs with their clients on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I put it all in there. You can see, it's funny. I had a cinnamon roll 2 days ago, and I share my food log. Right now I've got like 27 people that are current right now that I'm sharing information with. And one of my clients was like, "Oh, you had a cinnamon roll. I see you." I'm like, yeah, I put that stuff in there. I put everything in there. Well,
that's so beautiful, because people don't know what they can get away with too. They can have another type of perversion where they're so, I don't know if you've ever gone through that phase where you're so constrictive and you're trying to do it so perfect that you actually stress your body out and you stress your system out and you burn yourself out and cause yourself to have these relapses because you don't allow your humanity to exist.
Yeah.
And your playful side or whatever, you're not just a robot.
You have to go on vacation.
Yeah.
You have to have some ice cream every now and then.
Yeah.
And I know this isn't true for everybody. Sometimes you got to fucking cut loose and have a few beers.
Yeah.
There's a time and place for getting down and getting stuff out of your system. 100%. You got to have that. You can't be a robot, all day, every day. I know there's a few.
There's a few freaks again. Yeah.
Few
Unless
freaks
you
out
are the
there.
robot, and there's a few robots out there.
Yeah. I know David Goggins is one of them.
David Goggins is an absolute robot, and yeah, he can, and he's another special character that we all get to be inspired by. And he's paid some price. I wouldn't want to be David Goggins necessarily. He's had a tremendous journey.
Without question, yes. Without question.
So, but yeah, I love David Goggins. I got his book somewhere.
Love it. Love it.
All right. Well, let's we've gone for about an hour and a half here.
Oh, wow.
I think we should
look at that. Yeah.
Wrap
it up.
Well, let's wrap it up.
We'll do it again.
We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah.
I think again, I just want to make sure everyone gets to the things that your offerings.
So I'll let you know, I'm at CorePower Yoga. I am an advocate. Not only am I a teacher there, but I'm an advocate of CorePower Yoga. I believe they do powerful things for the community, and I think it's a great tool. So you can find me on the schedule there. If you get on the app and look inside Colorado. You can find me on the schedule there. I primarily teach at Belmar and Littleton. Those are the 2 studios I'm at right now. I've taught at a bunch of different studios, but those are the 2 that I'm currently at. I train out of a gym in Arvada called Commit to Fitness. It's on 64th and Wadsworth. I'm going to tell you this. Corporation gyms, these corporate gyms, get out of there. Get out of there.
Preach.
Go support the local gyms, the local businesses, the local grocery stores. Get out of the corporations, please. The gym I'm at is owned by Miguel Gomez. It's called Commit to Fitness. It's privately owned. It's community. Check it out. That's where I'm at. The name of my brand is Mobile Muscle. My website is mobilemusclemax.com. I didn't pay for the max to get out of there. One of those days I'll afford to have it be mobilemuscle.com. I'm not quite there yet, but right now it's mobilemusclemax.com. I'm Rob at mobilemusclemax.com. You can email me there, and I do nutrition coaching. I do one-on-one training, small group training. I've done bachelor parties for yoga bachelor parties. I'll do anything as long as it's related to fitness and helping you level up and get you to the next level. So those are where I'm at.
And I can't endorse it enough. I've been to the Red Rocks class. I've been to the yoga classes. I've got to come down to the gym and see what I can do with my lifts, because I'm sure I would gain a lot from your tutelage.
I do 2 usually on Mondays and Thursdays. I'll start sending you my schedule.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I'll start just sending it to you, and you can come to any of them. But it's next level, and we're all, you know what? We're all beginners. All of us are beginners. Even you in your endeavors, and I'm sure you know this, you're a beginner too.
Oh yeah.
Even though you're an expert at what you do, you're still a beginner because your path is endless.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do. Just level up. And in order to level up, you got to be a beginner,
Every day. Alrighty.
Well, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone listening. And we'll catch you on the next one. Oh, yeah. There it was. Thank you guys for being a part of this one. Thank you, Robbie, for being the guest of this episode and the human that you are. Much love, bro. I can't wait to check out the gym and get my ass kicked at your next class or whatever I'm going to do. I always get my ass kicked. Can barely walk the next day after doing the Red Rocks workout. Please jump into that description if you guys are similarly looking for an edge or a new look at fitness, or you need coaching, or you need something in this realm. It sounds like Robbie's doing some great work, and there's going to be even opportunities for you that aren't local to access some of the online programming that he can offer. So big ups to Robbie. I hope you go check out all of his links and keep following his journey, and much love. We'll see you next time.